You know that kind of silence that only exists in big buildings after 2 a.m. It's the kind of silence that seems to breathe. And if you've ever been alone in a place like that, you know it's not the kind of quiet that soothes you. It's the kind that watches. Tonight, I'm going to tell you a story sent by one of our listeners, a man who worked for years as a night janitor in a commercial building in São Paulo. No ghosts, no curses. But what he saw, what he discovered, made him swear never to work another shift after sunset. If you've also lived through something real, one of those stories no one would believe if you told it, send it to us. After all, the strange isn't always the invisible. Sometimes it's just what we choose to ignore. My name is Paulo. I'm 57 years old, and I worked as a janitor for 18 years, almost all of them in old commercial buildings in downtown São Paulo. I've seen it all. People sleeping in fire escapes, squatters breaking into empty floors, drunk, managers forgetting their badges. But in 2016, when I took the position at the Mirante do Vale building, I still didn't know how terrifying a night shift could be, without anything supernatural. The Mirante is that old building that used to be the tallest in Brazil, over 170 meters high. By day, it's a hive of offices and currency brokers. But at night, it becomes a vertical desert. My shift started at 10 p.m. and ended at 6 a.m., and if there's one thing the graveyard shift teaches you, it's that the city never sleeps, it just changes faces. In the very first week, I noticed something odd. The 19th floor, where there were empty offices awaiting renovation, was the only one not fully covered by the camera system. The hallway camera worked, but the one inside room 1903 had been under maintenance for months. No one ever went up there. Not even the building manager. But every night, around 3:10 a.m., the lights on that floor would turn on by themselves. It wasn't a malfunction. I checked the electrical panel. Everything was normal. And when I went up to switch them off manually, the switch was already in the off position. The light was coming from inside. When I told the manager about the light turning on by itself on the 19th, he just shrugged. Probably a short in the circuit, Paulo. Don't worry about it. But I did worry. A good janitor knows that a building has memory. And when something starts happening repeatedly, always at the same time, always in the same place, it's a sign that someone's messing where they shouldn't. That night, I decided to go up a bit before 3 a.m. I took the service elevator, the old one that groaned at every floor, with a flashlight in my pocket and the radio clipped to my belt. The lights from the lower floors faded one by one as I went up. When the doors opened on the 19th, the hallway was completely dark. The sound of my own footsteps echoed on the waxed floor, that hollow echo only empty places have. The office doors were sealed with administrative tape, some so rusted they looked untouched for years. Only 1903 wasn't sealed. I stopped in front of it, watching. There was no sound, but a faint smell of old paint came from inside, like someone had recently painted the walls. I tried the handle, locked. I went back to the elevator, but before pressing the button, I looked up and saw something I hadn't noticed before. A thin, new wire running down through the air vent. Someone had run a fresh cable there, but why? The next day, I asked for permission to check the floor with the daytime security guard. His name was Orlando, a calm guy, close to retirement. When I mentioned the wire and the light turning on every night, he gave me a strange look. You didn't know? Know what? That floor. It used to belong to the building's original construction company. They shut it down after an accident in 1998. A worker died there during a renovation. I froze. What do you mean died? Transformer explosion. He was an electrician. Name was Edmilson. They said it was negligence, but nobody wanted to touch that floor after it happened. The family sued, and the company went under. That explained the abandonment, but not the lights, and not the new wire. For the next few weeks, everything went back to normal, until one night, the elevator stopped on the 19th floor without me pressing a button. I thought it was a system error, but when the doors opened, I saw a flashlight lying on the floor, right in the middle of the hallway. I grabbed the radio. "Control, anyone on the 19th? Silence. Orlando, you there? Nothing." I stepped out and picked up the flashlight. It was still warm. Same brand the building used, with the maintenance label stuck on the side, but the asset number had been scratched off. I looked down the corridor and saw room 1903. The door was now slightly open. I tried to convince myself that someone from administration had just left it there, but my heart was beating too fast for that to be true. I pushed the door gently and shone the light inside. The room was completely empty. No desks, no chairs, no visible wiring, except for a black extension cord running across the floor into a corner covered by a tarp. When I lifted the tarp, I found a small security camera aimed straight at the door. The next day, I went straight to management. I showed the camera to the building manager. He looked annoyed. "Paulo, that's old equipment. It's probably been there for years." But it was on and wired with a new cable. Then someone must have forgotten it. "It's nothing." I didn't argue, but by then, I knew when someone was trying to shut me up. I went back to the 19th floor alone and followed the cable to the back wall. It ran through a hole in the baseboard and into the electrical shaft. When I opened the panel, I realized the wire wasn't connected to the building's network. It ran through a makeshift opening, going down toward the lower floors. I kept tracing it, down, floor by floor, until the 17th, where it disappeared behind a false wall. There, next to the fire stairs, was a small locked room I'd never noticed before. I tried my key ring, but none of them fit. The next day, I found Orlando at the entrance. I asked if he knew about any new rooms on the middle floors. He thought for a moment and said, "There's a technical room the manager had sealed off a few months ago. Said it was for maintenance equipment. But he's the only one with the key. That wire ... That camera pointed at an empty room, and a locked room only the manager could open." I started putting the pieces together in my head. If someone was using that empty floor, it wasn't to watch. It was to hide. The following night, I decided to check again. This time, I brought my phone and recorded everything. I reached the 19th floor a little before 3 a.m. The light was already on, and there were voices. I froze near the stairs, trying to make them out. 2 people, one male low voice and one female, speaking quickly, softly. I couldn't understand what they were saying, but the tone was tense. When I took a single step forward, the sound stopped. I ran to 1903, empty. But now there was something new on the table, a blue folder, stamped with the logo of the old construction company. Inside, old electrical blueprints and a plastic badge with the name, Edmilson dos Santos, Installation Technician. I went back to the ground floor, sweating. I showed the folder to Orlando, and he went pale. Paulo ... That name. That was the guy who died here. I remember his photo in the paper. Then why is this still in the building? He stayed silent for several seconds before saying, "Because maybe he didn't die where they said he did." After that night, I couldn't sleep properly for days. The image of that blue folder haunted me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Edmilson's badge, his face blurred by the moisture trapped under the plastic, as if someone had tried to smear out the past. The next morning, I took the badge with me. I discreetly showed it to one of the new security guards, Leandro, a curious kid, always eager to prove himself. "Have you ever seen this name anywhere in the building?" He took the badge, read it, frowned. "Edmilson dos Santos ... Sounds familiar. I think I saw that name on a breaker label down in the basement." My heart started pounding. If the name of the man who died on the 19th was still on the building's electrical panel, then either the accident was misreported or someone never removed his stuff, which was odd considering the original construction company had gone bankrupt decades ago. I went down with Leandro to the technical basement. The air down there was heavy, damp, smelling of dust and burnt oil. The walls were covered with old pipes, and the hum of the generators made the floor vibrate. We walked to the back, where the main distribution panel was, and there it was. A yellowed label stuck to a metal cover, installed by Edmilson D. Santos, 1998. Leandro crouched to take a closer look. Looks way too new to be from 1998, huh? And he was right. The adhesive tape was still holding strong. I ran my finger across it. The glue was still tacky. Someone had reattached that label recently. We went back up in silence, but my mind was racing. If someone was tampering with old equipment and relabeling it under a dead man's name, there was a reason. And in a commercial building, reasons usually mean money. That afternoon, I waited until the manager left. Then I took the spare key to the storage room where the old archives were kept. I spent almost 2 hours digging through moldy boxes until I found one stamped with the logo of the old construction firm. Inside were contracts, blueprints, and invoices. But what caught my attention was a brown envelope marked in pen, Infrastructure Renovation minus 1,998, partial. I opened it carefully. The documents listed purchases of electrical cables, breakers, and control panels. But something was off. Several invoices had identical, repeated amounts. Always rounded numbers. Always signed by the same person. A. Noguera. The current building manager's name is Adalberto Noguera. I packed everything into my backpack and went home. My head was pounding. If he had already been the manager back then, maybe he was directly involved in that accident. But I needed proof. The next morning, I arrived earlier than everyone else. I took the key to the technical storage and went back to the 17th floor, where the cable from the 19th ended. The locked room was still there. I locked the elevator with the maintenance key so no one could come up and began inspecting the false wall with a screwdriver. After a few minutes, I managed to pry off the metal baseboard. Behind it, the black cable ran into a hole disguised as a dead outlet. I removed the cover, and what I saw made my blood run cold. A DVR for security cameras, active with a red light blinking. That's where the cables from the 19th ended. The abandoned floor was being secretly recorded, and the footage was stored right there, hidden behind a false wall. I pulled the device out, shoved it into my backpack, and went downstairs. I knew I was getting into something way bigger than I should, but a janitor's instinct is hard to silence. When something stinks, you have to find where the smell is coming from. At home, I hooked the DVR up to my daughter's old monitor. Cracked screen, but it still worked for video. The device asked for a password, but a few guesses, 1234 and 000, unlocked it. Inside was a list of recordings. Cam_1903, dates from 2022 to 2025. Almost 3 years of footage. I opened the first file. Black and white image. The same 19th floor hallway, completely empty. Nothing happened for several minutes. I fast-forwarded and then saw a figure entering room 1903. Tall man, dark jacket, motorcycle helmet. Carrying something heavy, wrapped in a tarp. He dragged it into the corner, covered it with another tarp, and left. I paused the video. Rewound it, frame by frame. When he turned around, for just a second, the light caught his face. It was the manager. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I went straight to Orlando. I showed him part of the video on my phone. He went white. My God, Paulo ... What are you gonna do with this? Depends. Did you know about it? No ... but I know one thing. A few months ago, a delivery guy went missing after dropping off a package for the manager. The police came, asked questions, but they never found him. The whole building went quiet about it. My stomach twisted. The tarp-covered object, the hidden recordings. The dead man's name used to mask recent installations. The stench of rot finally made sense. I waited until midnight. Went back to the 19th floor, armed only with my phone and whatever courage I had left. I reached room 1903 and pushed the door open slowly. The air was colder than the rest of the floor. The tarp was still there, the same one from the video. With my trembling flashlight, I lifted one corner. Inside, metal boxes. I opened one. Electrical equipment, breakers, cables, new labels. But at the bottom, there was something worse. Envelopes sealed with the City Hall's emblem, bidding papers, renovation contracts, fake receipts. The building manager was using the abandoned floor to hide evidence of an embezzlement scheme, money being siphoned from the renovation funds. I took 2 steps back, breathing deeply. That's when I heard the elevator. Doors opening, heavy footsteps. I turned off my flashlight and hid behind the door. The voice that echoed down the corridor was familiar. Paulo ... I know you're in here. He entered slowly, the glow of his phone lighting the floor. I didn't move. The sound of his boots grew closer. His breathing was heavy, measured. You shouldn't have touched the stuff on the 19th floor, Paulo. That floor was dead. Until you decided to bring it back to life. For a second, I thought that was it. But then the radio on my belt crackled. It was Leandro, down at the front desk. Mr. Paulo, the police just got here. Did you call for backup? The manager froze. I stepped out of the shadows, my breathing shaky. I have now. He stared at me, the flashlight trembling in his hand. For a moment, the silence was so heavy it felt like it was crushing me. The radio kept hissing on my belt, its metallic. Static filling the air. He tried to smile, but his face was tense, twisted with anger. You don't know what you're doing, Paulo. His voice came out low, calm, too calm to be honest. Those things, they're not what you think. I stepped back. The floorboards creaked beneath my feet. Oh no? Then explain why a dead man's name is being used to sign the building's repair invoices. Why there's a DVR hidden behind the wall. And why, Adalberto, you've been caught carrying bags around a floor that one's supposed to enter. He lowered his head and let out a deep sigh. When he looked back up, his eyes were different, cold, no pretense. No mask. You think you understand, Paulo, but you don't understand anything. He pointed a finger at me. This building is older than it looks. You take care of what can be seen. I take care of what can't be seen. For a second, I thought he was going to lunge at me. But before he could move, the elevator doors opened again. Bright lights flooded the corridor. 2 officers stepped out, flashlights and guns raised. Police! Hands where we can see them. Adalberto froze. He raised his hands slowly, trying to keep his composure. Officers, this is a misunderstanding. I'm the building manager. I exhaled in relief for a moment. At the station, the following hours dragged on. We gave our statements. I showed them the DVR, the recordings, the documents. The officers exchanged glances, taking notes, but wore that expression, the kind that says, "They've seen this before." One of them, Detective Vasconcelos, pulled me aside. "Mr. Paulo, you did the right thing bringing this in. But you should know you just stirred up a hornet's nest." "What do you mean?" "That manager, Adalberto, he's been mentioned in other investigations. Overpriced contracts, embezzlement, fake invoices. But he always walks free. He's protected. You really think he was hiding evidence here by mistake?" I went silent. That bitter feeling of helplessness rose in my throat. The detective patted my shoulder. "Go home. Get some rest. We'll take it from here." But that's not how it went. 2 days later, Adalberto was released. The reason? Lack of conclusive evidence. The DVR disappeared from the evidence log. The folders I'd handed in, gone too. I went back to the building, trying to act normal, but the atmosphere was heavy. Orlando barely looked at me. Leandro was quiet, on edge. And the manager, he greeted me every day as if nothing had happened. "Good. Morning, Paulo. Everything calm today?" "All good, Mr. Adalberto," and he'd smile. That smile of someone who's already won. Weeks went by. Things started to look normal again. But something was off. Small things. The 19th floor light. I'd turn it off, and it would be on again. The smell of fresh paint coming from a floor where no renovations were happening. Camera logs showing someone messing with the breaker panel in the middle of the night. Until one night, I got a call from Leandro. "Mr. Paulo, are you seeing this?" "Seeing what?" "Check the service elevator cameras. Now." I opened the monitor. The grainy image showed a man in a janitor's uniform, identical to mine, pushing a stretcher covered with a white sheet. On the corner of his cap, embroidered in small letters, it read, "P. Silva, my name." "Is this live?" I asked. "Yes." He went up to the 19th. I ran. When the elevator doors opened, the corridor was empty. The air was still cold. The stretcher was gone. But what froze me wasn't that. The DVR, the same one I'd handed over to the police, was back on the floor, plugged into the wall. And on top of it, a crumpled note. "Some things need to stay hidden." The next day, I quit. The manager pretended to be surprised, but didn't insist. "Are you sure, Paulo?" "Trustworthy people are hard to find. I'm sure." "You'll find another." "Oh, I don't doubt that." I walked out with my backpack and the feeling that someone was still watching me, and maybe they were. But the strangest part came a week later. I received a letter at home, no sender. Inside, a single printed page. A black and white image, a still from a security camera. Me, inside room 1903, staring at the tarp. Date and time in the corner, 2 days before I found the DVR. The detail that took my breath away, in the image behind me, in the dim light, there were 2 shadows. One was mine, and the other, taller, completely still. I went back to the building that same afternoon as a visitor. I wanted to see the 19th floor one last time. But the new doorman stopped me. "Sorry, sir. The floor's closed off. Electrical maintenance." I glanced over the counter, and there it was on the authorization sheet. Technical Supervisor, E. Dos Santos. Edmelson's name, again. I never went back. But even today, sometimes, I wake up in the middle of the night with that smell, rust, dust, and ozone. And I wonder if the real rot in that building will ever come to light. You know when you work cleaning up, after everyone else, and you start noticing things other people don't? Small signs. A screw replaced. A light that always goes out at the same time. A sound coming from where no one should be. Those things talk to you if you know how to listen. The problem is, when you decide to listen too closely, you start uncovering truths no one wants revealed. And truth, my friend, is heavy, especially when it's mixed with power, money, and silence. If I learned anything all these years, it's this: not every mistake is a ghost, but every secret has an owner. And most of the time, that owner is a lot more alive than you think. See you in the next story.